Are you and your dog struggling with reactivity? You're not alone. At Positively, we've created a powerful new approach that will finally provide a lasting solution for your dog's reactivity. And it's available for you and your dog right now. Go to positively.com, click Take a Course, and find Help Stop Reactivity to enroll in this game-changing online course for you and your dog today. That's positively.com. And now, onto the podcast.
I don't complain about being busy, but I am busy. And my next guest is also busy. I don't know where she has the time to do everything that she does, but I am so very honored that she has agreed to come on this podcast. Her name is Vanessa Woods, and I know you know who she is, but I will say it anyway. She's the director of the Duke Puppy Kindergarten. She's an award-winning writer and journalist. She has written a lot of books, including, and I do want to talk about this, Vanessa, a book you wrote in 2010 called The Bonobo Handshake, a memoir of love and adventure in Congo. I know this is about dogs, but we're going to talk bonobos because I want to hear about that. You've also written a children's book, and you've also written, along with your husband, Dr. Brian Hare, you've written The Genius of Dogs, Survival of the Friendliness, and then your latest book, Puppy Kindergarten. Oh my gosh. So and you also, and people will be wondering, like, what is the Puppy Kindergarten? We're going to talk about that and talk about all of the really fascinating things that you have learned raising this group of puppies. And also, you spoke at the Dog Behavior Conference. People adored you. They had so many questions. So I'm going to be asking some of those questions that you didn't have time to get to because there were so many questions at the tail end of this podcast. Is that good? First of all, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I feel like we've known each other for such a long time, and now I'm just excited I get to be here.
Well, I'm really glad. Thank you, because I think the studies that you have been doing and have done has really helped shape what a lot of us dog trainers, boots on the ground dog trainers and behavior consultants, shaped what we do, shaped our understanding, especially books like Genius of Dogs, has really been pivotal in my learning. It's been a long day in my learning as well, especially when it comes to canine cognition. And then working with Brian on the Dognition all those years ago with Duke, that was a great honor. And to learn from you both. But what you've also learned regarding puppies with the research that you're doing is just phenomenal. So I'm so glad you are here. And first of all, can you tell us a little bit about Puppy Kindergarten and what it is? And then we might go back to bonobos, and then we'll come back again to Puppy Kindergarten, just so that listeners know what it is.
That sounds like the best ride ever. So yes, but firstly, I do want to say just how much Brian and I really appreciate trainers. Actually, we do everything we do just because we are dog lovers. We are dog lovers first. And, our main purpose is to make the world better for dogs and the people who love them. And I think that, we can talk about this later, but I think there's been a real cultural shift in the way that dogs, in our relationship with dogs, that's probably the biggest shift we've had in like 15,000 years since our relationship first began. And, that creates many wonderful changes, but it also has created some struggles. And I think really the trainers are on the front lines of those struggles. And if there's anyone who can help us, it's really people who have a lot of experience with dogs, behavior modification. Like I know that behavior is one of the straws that breaks the camel's back and can really kind of fracture the relationship we have with our dogs. So Brian and I are just, so thankful to trainers, and we are just happy to help.
Well, tell us about what got you into all of this to begin with, right? So you wrote this book, you lived in the Congo, and you are spending time studying bonobos. Can you take us back to that time and why and how did you
I know
get there?
it is. Well, I'm just getting to the stage where I do feel like I've lived a long time. I was talking to one of my students today. She's like, oh, I can't even believe the graduating class is like 2030. I'm like, well, when you were born in the last century, like that kind of puts things into perspective. So, I mean, I guess, Brian, her is my husband, and when we met, he had really come from things for the dog side of things. So, his work with dogs goes all the way back until, he was a teenager, basically. But I was really in love with primates. So, bonobos and chimpanzees, there are two closest living relatives. They share like 98.7% of our DNA. And, it's kind of like just like you have two cousins, they are from different sides, but you're equally closely related. That is our relationship with them. And I have just always loved the great apes ever when I was very young, like, almost in my very early 20s, I went to work with chimpanzees and look after some of the orphans from the bushmeat trade. And it was just love at first sight. I never understood how similar they were to us. Like, when you look in a chimpanzee's eyes or a bonobo's eyes, it's not looking into the eyes of like, I don't know, like a goat or a shark. It's like, different eyes. They are human
Mm,
eyes, and they look back at you with all, whatever it is that you see when you look into the eyes of someone else. I mean, that is what,
mm,
I saw in bonobos and chimpanzees. And so I had really spent a long time spending time with them, trying to help their conservation, writing about them, filming them. And so, I guess they were really my first passion. And Brian and I started studying bonobos together. And funnily enough, bonobos and chimpanzees have a lot of in common, relationship wise, as dogs do with wolves. And so that's kind of how all the worlds collided and how we got started.
What was it like in the Congo? What is it like studying the bonobos there?
The Congo is one of those places where there's just nowhere like it anywhere. It's home, of course, to the Congo Basin. It's one of the largest areas of biodiversity in the world, after the Amazon. And then it's also incredibly urban. Kinshasa, the capital city, has like 20 million people. And so it's kind of like this, I think, this juxtaposition that we're seeing everywhere in the world, but the contrast is just really stark with this really dense urban population kind of like sprawling out to contact this really untouched wilderness, and all the challenges that come with that. I think, we've been working in the Congo for almost 20 years now, and so we have lots of friends there, lots of people that we know and we love, and some of those who I love most are actually bonobos. We went to visit
Mhm.
them, like I think it was the year before last. We took the kids, and it was just amazing to see them all. Like, some of the females brought their babies to show me. There were like
Oh,
orphans that I'd spent a long time with. A while ago, and they all recognized me, and some of them didn't, but some of them really did, and you could tell the difference. And so it was wonderful to see everybody again, human and ape.
and are they in a rescue center? Or are they in some kind of sanctuary?
Yes, Lola Ya Bonobo is the world's only bonobo sanctuary, and they have the largest captive population of bonobos in the world. And they rescue orphans from the bushmeat trade. So in Congo, it is illegal to hunt, kill, or keep bonobos. And so, when the law is enforced and these orphans are found, they go to Lolaya Bonobo Sanctuary, who also has this incredible program to then release rehabilitated bonobos into the wild.
Oh, so there is a release program there.
Yes, there's a release program. It's been running
Amazing.
since 2009, and it's incredibly successful. They have released bonobos. These bonobos have reproduced, which is really, the kind of like in science speak, the benchmark of successful release and rehabilitation. So yeah, it's been really exciting to see that journey and follow that journey. And I feel like in a world where there aren't that many hopeful stories, this is one I revisit a lot.
When you are there with these bonobos, what have you learned about them? What have they taught
I've
you?
well, I mean, so many things research wise, so many small things. We run these kind of research studies to kind of understand where we as humans kind of sit, what's similar and what is it that makes us human. But really, sort of zooming out, what they've taught me is all about friendship because, as I said, the bonobos and chimpanzees were equally as closely related to their but chimpanzees live in this male-dominated society. They hunt and kill each other. They have war. They have, something very similar to gang violence. Infants are really often killed. And, even though they're almost genetically identical, bonobos don't have any of that. Sorry. They're the most dominant individual is always a female, and the babies are not killed. And there's, very few cases of one bonobo killing another, like very few, like less than 10. And sometimes the circumstances aren't even clear. And so, and the way bonobos do this is really via female friendships. So, in chimpanzees, the females are, often quite isolated and they rely on the males to protect them. But in bonobo societies, it's the females that form these really close friendships. So whenever a male bonobo starts acting, really dominant or aggressively, the females will band together and correct them, as the Congolese like to say. So that's just been really amazing, both in terms of thinking about our own society and culture and where cooperation breaks down and violence and conflict start to occur. And then also just, in the broader framework of survival of the fittest, this idea that the most dominant and aggressive will really win. But it's not like that at all. And bonobos are just the perfect embodiment of survival of the friendliest, like we like to say.
Survival of the Friendliness, which is obviously the title of one of your books. I think that's fascinating, and I don't want to be sexist here, but maybe things would be really different if women ran the world, right?
Yeah, female friendships. And it's interesting because, in the animal world, there are examples of female dominated species like hyenas, for one, and some species of lemurs. But in these species, the females tend to be bigger than the males, and they use violence and aggression exactly the way males do, in comparable species. But bonobos just don't do any of that. It's not that they don't have any violence, they do. But in contrast to chimpanzees that use violence to establish dominance and maintain control, bonobos use violence to maintain the peace. And they really do that through these strong female relationships that they have where, the females really support each other.
Wow. So we have a lot to learn from them.
Yes.
Right? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So then you're there, you're in the Congo, you come back to America. How did the work at Duke and cognition and the cognition start there? The really great research into canine cognition. How did that come about?
So, so we're in an evolutionary anthropology department, and one of the things we think of in just relation to how we became human is just this concept of domestication and self-domestication. And without going into it too much, there are a lot of similarities between the relationship of chimpanzees and bonobos and then wolves and dogs, because wolves are much more aggressive than dogs, both to within their species, and then also with humans. They're much more wary, more fearful. And so, just kind of like looking at the differences, some of the changes in dogs have been cognitive. So, just as in evolution, you can have like wings evolving multiple times with like, bats and birds that, and squirrels in some cases. So your mind, there can also be what we call convergent evolution in psychology. And so dogs have this incredible ability that is called theory of mind. It's one of the theory of mind abilities, but it's almost like mind reading because of their close relationship to humans. And wolves don't have this, and even our close living relatives, bonobos and chimpanzees, don't have it. So this really special kind of niche ability that dogs have is super interesting to study, and it's given rise to this whole research program around why this ability evolved, how it evolved, what it means, and the other kind of byproducts of this.
Are you a dog trainer? Looking for pro learning opportunities that go beyond the usual? Click or call the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdta.com to discover which of our professionally focused courses are right for you. From foundational starter courses to our comprehensive Level 5 accredited pro dog trainer course, and even specialized courses in advanced topics like reactivity for professionals, VSA offers new and seasoned dog trainers unparalleled industry-leading learning experiences. Find out more and take a completely free preview course now at vsdta.com. That's vsdta.com. And now, back to the podcast.
So in the book, In Genius of Dogs, you write about left gaze bias, that dogs have what we humans. So when a human looks at a human face, normally we start looking at the left-hand side of the face. And then immediately, as we're looking at somebody, our eyes move to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so why?
It's just, okay, so it's like, it's that and like other funny little things that you were like, what is this? It is, an example of convergent psychology. It is just our life, like we have shared so much of our lives together that the dog mind in some cases have evolved these abilities to really that really overlap in similar ways to our own. So there's like the left gaze bias, and that's one of them, but I think one of the big ones is being able to follow gestures. So when we're born, we aren't born with the whole deck of cards. Everybody who has a baby knows that they really take a while to develop, both physically and mentally. Yeah. And but one of the first skills that comes online is that is to be the ability to follow gestures. So when you were younger, if your mom pointed to something, you started to understand, and this was the first cognitive skill that really developed, that it wasn't, or not to look at her finger, but to look at something beyond her finger. And not only that, but that, she knew that you didn't know something and that she was trying to point it out to you. And this is, one of the and it's called theory of mind because you have to have the theory of somebody else's mind. And this kind of really simple ability is like the foundation for all language and culture. So, we spend our whole lives thinking about what other people are thinking about. And it all starts with this ability to kind of like follow a gesture, like just, follow a point is a really good example. And, chimpanzees and bonobos don't have this ability. They do not follow our gestures the way that dogs can. And just the fact that dogs can do this, not only within their species, but actually across a species is really just remarkable. And so, that discovery that Brian made, 20 years ago is really what started this whole kind of explosion of, this new research into dog cognition, like almost this revolution, because before that, dogs were kind of seen as, cute but dumb. They were domesticated. They didn't have, any of the glamour of wolves, or, they weren't allowed, they could barely survive in the wild. Like, most puppies die before they're one if they don't have humans to help them. So, the fact that everything we've learned about dogs and what they're capable of cognitively is just, fascinating, I think.
So I mean, if for people who go, well, that's not a big deal to follow a human point, but actually gestures don't mean anything, right? They don't mean anything until you attach some kind of significance to them.
Absolutely.
I mean, and gestures, actually, this similar type of gestures can mean different things depending on what country you are. And I remember, so let's just take the V, right? The V, and I'm doing it on the podcast. I'm doing the V here. I came over to America, and a lot of people were saying 1, 2, and they would show the V, and it was with the back of the hand facing forward. Now, in England, I was kind of shocked because in England, that gesture means F you.
Oh.
Right? When you put 2 fingers up like that, it's F you. But I was seeing everybody in America do it. And I thought, well, that's very odd. And victory is the same because it's the palm facing forward with your fingers in a V. But no, that meant FU. And that got me thinking, well, not only do gestures are meaningless until you attach some kind of significance, but the similar gestures mean different things in different countries. So actually for a dog, right? So babies are able to follow their human point at around, is it around 9 months or is it earlier?
That's exactly right. No, 9 months.
Around 9 months. And dogs can do it from puppies?
Yeah, 6 weeks. Like just after they've barely opened their eyes and, have started to get their other senses online. Like this is one of the first cognitive abilities that appears in dogs, just as it is one of the first cognitive abilities that appears in humans' babies. And it's, incredibly important. And to your point, it's like, it's not the actual gesture, it's the meaning behind the gesture, right. This really kind of like complex level of, do I think what you think that I think that you think? Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I know that you know that you don't know something and I do know something. So now I'm going to show you and you're going to understand that I know something that you don't know and then you're going to pay attention to it. So that's like insanely complicated. And yeah, it is just the foundation for culture and language. We spend so much time with these verbal cues. I mean, we talk a lot and that's what we, attribute most of our communication styles to, but you can communicate so much just with tiny gestures. Like, if you and I met and you kind of like, I was like, hey, Victoria, how are you? And I saw you just like flick your eyes down to my name tag, I would be like, oh my God, she doesn't remember me. Victoria doesn't remember you. She has no idea who I am. Like, yes. Do you know what I mean? Just like by that, you get tiny gesture. I'm making a model of your mind. I'm like, thinking about what you don't know and then remembering, like, how could she not? And then, there's all these other thoughts. How could she not remember me? We had such a good time at the last conference we were at, like all that kind of thing. And, from something that simple to, you imagine seeing someone that you had in a relationship with and you hadn't seen for years, and you walk into a room, you lock eyes, and then the other person just leaves. It's It's like,
terrible, devastating.
like just the emotional trauma. But then you're thinking like, wait, what are they, I know they remember me. So are they telling me it's over? They don't want to see me. Like this giant part of my life that took up years is now nothing to them. Like, do you know what? We spend our whole lives looking at nonverbal gestures and attributing meaning. I mean, they give our life meaning and fulfillment. And the fact that this completely different species is kind of like sort of like leapt onto that and can do even an elementary form of that, I think is really fascinating. It is it's at the heart of the genius of dogs.
So what Brian had through his research, not only did he find that, dogs have gone through this in living with us, this evolutionary process of, I think that makes them one of the most successful domestic species on the planet, because they have evolved alongside humans to recognize certain gestures and to communicate with us as best as they can. I think humans need we need more coaching in doing it back in general. But, there was also great research done on memory and on reasoning and on cunning, all of these incredible things that has given us so much more information about the inner emotional lives of dogs and what they can do. And that if you want to learn more about that, you've got to read Genius of Dogs, right? Because that will just set you straight about this incredible research. But I do want to talk now about puppy kindergarten and how that came about. And because you really are the director of that, and why?
So puppy kindergarten came out of this idea that, there are millions of people in the US who could do with a service dog. Like, because of this special ability that dogs have, there are, dogs have now more jobs than ever. There is no technology that can replace dogs in terms of, you might be able to get like Alexa to turn your lights on and off, but, can Alexa then also like go to the refrigerator, get you something to drink, pick up your credit card, find your keys that you've lost, and then not only that, but just like give you a hug at the end of the day. So, millions of Americans and, more worldwide could do with a service dog, and there just aren't enough of them. It's incredibly difficult and arduous to qualify as a service dog, and it takes like 2 years and costs about $50,000 for each one, and then half of them fail. So what we were trying to do with puppy kindergarten is that we were trying to come up with the list, just kind of like this cognitive test battery that would allow us to tell early which puppies were most likely to make it. So then, instead of waiting for 2 years and investing all that time and money, you could take a puppy at like 10 to 12 weeks and kind of figure out with some amount of certainty of, whether they have the right cognitive profile to make it. And, some of the things that you were talking about, like memory and reasoning and self-control and this ability to follow gestures, they are, what we found over decades of research as what, these are important and they really count towards service dog success. So that's why we had to enroll an insane amount of puppies. I think it was 101 at the end. And, we still had like 10 puppies on campus last semester. I mean, you can't stop having puppies once you've started with them. But puppies, we tested them once every 2 weeks from 8 to 20 weeks old, which is their kind of final period of rapid brain development, to see when these cognitive skills emerged, and then how heritable they were over time, whether a puppy with good memory when they were, 8, 10 weeks old still had good memory when they were 2 years old, that kind of thing. So that was the purpose of puppy kindergarten. And then we also wanted to see how rearing, because, we've talked a lot to our like trainer friends, and one of their questions was, does rearing matter? Like, everybody has really strong ideas about how dogs should be raised, and service dog puppies are usually kind of raised just in a family home. They have an amazing amount of socialization. They're so well taken care of. But we wanted to see what would happen if we kind of like super socialized them and kind of like flooded them with all sorts of positive experiences with lots of different people. Because in children, it's sort of research is that really matters. Like kids who get early exposure to a lot of people, a lot of diverse different people are more flexible problem solvers. They're more tolerant. And so we wanted to see if the same was true of puppies.
Now, this was not just, I mean, this was so different because you're actually having students. The puppies are living at Duke and the students are helping raise them.
Yes, we had half the puppies raised in a normal household that came into Duke to test every 2 weeks. And then, yes, the other 50 puppies were raised by Duke students in student dorms. So, instead of having like one family they lived with, they were raised from between like 3 to 5 different students. They moved dorm rooms. They kind of like rotated through dorm rooms. They had me and then 100 undergrad taking care of them every semester, for this kind of like last period of rapid development. They went to visit and they went all over Duke's campus. They went to the dining hall, the library, the chapel. So they just met people everywhere they went. All these experiences were positive. We were careful to give them like lots of break times, lots of rest, but they just did. They had a lot of wonderful experience with like thousands of people.
That's just amazing. And I'm sure, did you have lots of students signing up?
Yeah, we had we sent out this like really like, because back when we started, like Facebook was still a thing. We sent out this really low key Facebook post like, oh, if you're interested in taking care of puppies, like, here's where you can sign up. And we didn't know because, all college students are so busy these days. They're overloaded and they have all these clubs and activities they do. So we didn't know. We had 600 students sign up, which is like a tenth of the student body at Duke in like a week. And even now, I think we have like 400 students who are part of Puppy Club. And so it's the demand is high.
That's incredible. Okay, we're going to talk about the amazing things that you have found out from raising these puppies after this short break. We'll be back.
Are you overwhelmed by the world of professional dog training? We get it. There are so many different voices competing for the hearts and minds of people like you who just want the best for dogs and the people who love them. The good news is we're living in a golden age of understanding about not just how dogs think, feel, and learn, but also the importance of exploring and respecting the life experience and overall wellness of these amazing animals. But it can be tough keeping up with and making sense of all the labels: force-free, balanced, positive. And even when you identify the type of training that resonates naturally with you, people are telling you that positive training alone isn't enough. At VSA, we understand how hard it can be to navigate this world. And we're also at the forefront of rethinking what it means to be a professional in the pet industry working with dog behavior. And spoiler alert, it's about much more than just teaching dogs to do or stop doing something. So we'll make it simple. If you're looking to cut through the noise and focus on building or nurturing a career dedicated to serving the best interests of dogs and the people who love them, come talk to us at the Victoria Stilwell Academy. We have live and online courses designed for people at every step of their professional dog training journey, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Visit us when you're ready at vsdta.com. Once again, that's vsdta.com. We're here to support you no matter your background, and we'd be honored to share your journey with you. And now, back to the podcast.
I'm back with Vanessa Woods. We're talking about everything puppy, and we're talking about the Duke Puppy Kindergarten, which is the goal is to graduate more service dogs. So what kind of things did you discover with raising these puppies?
I think, I think firstly, we realized that, because service dog puppies are such a specialized population.
Mhm.
But we realized how useful what we were seeing would be to people with pet dogs. And what I mean by that is that, we're experiencing this real cultural shift in our relationship with dog, probably the biggest we've had in, 15 to 40,000 years. And that is that for the entirety of our relationship, dogs have always, we've relied on them to guard the things we care about and the people we love. And that was the deal.
Mhm.
We relied on them to protect us. And, that has, there's been hunting and all other, kind of like jobs we've asked them to do, but it's like protection was the main thing,
Yeah.
alarm systems.
Yeah.
But we don't want that anymore. And as a matter of fact, we actively don't want that. A lot of the time, we want dogs to come with us on vacation and, come to work with us and sleep nicely under our desks, to go to outdoor cafes, to hang out with our friends, to be kind to all the neighborhood children who come in and out without knocking the door or ringing the bell, to not be super upset every time an Amazon package gets delivered, which in my house is like every 4 seconds. And so, and then not only that, but we just really want them to be part of our lives in a way that we didn't when I was growing up with dogs. I mean, just sort of like, and by that, I mean that, when I was little, like my dog and I would just roam around the neighborhood and nobody cared where we were or what we did as long as we were home by dinner. But now it's like my kids have a very structured, very scheduled life. And, Brian and I as parents are always just like up in their business. And I think dogs are the same. Like a lot of them are crated for a lot of the day. And that, we expect so much of them, to, for example, like sitting at work nicely for like 8 hours or, going on vacation, meeting lots of strange dogs and strange people like all the time and just having to be like calm and friendly. And what Brian and I realized is that service dogs are a century ahead in popular culture, and they've always had to do those things. And their main jobs, apart from the task they do, is the fact that they really had to fit into our lives the way that we want all our dogs to fit into our lives and our society and culture. So, I mean, a lot of things that we learned while we were raising all these puppies is, things that we want our puppies at home to be able to do. So, for instance, just temperamentally, we look at the temperament of different puppies, how reactive they are to different events. And one thing we did find is that the Duke puppies were a lot more confident than the puppies who were raised in homes. So they were a lot less
Interesting.
reactive to new events and, strange things happening, strange people. And the other thing is that, we found that eye contact was really important. Eye contact was a real eye
This
contact is
is
just
fascinating, though. The
yeah.
eye contact is so, yeah. If you can expand on that, it truly is.
Yes. Okay, so we have this so we have this funny little game where you kind of like put a treat in a box and then, just one of those snap lock containers, and you teach your dog that they can open it. You don't lock the box basically. And then, after a couple of times, once they've gotten the treat out, you lock the box. And then you just see what happens. So some dogs, their strategy is they'll just go for it. Like they were like, I could open this box. I'm going to get this treat out. Like I remember I could get it. And they'll just like try and solve the problem themselves. And other dogs will just like stop and just like sit down and look at you. Like as in, you just put this in here. Can you get it out? Like,
Yeah. Can you
and
help
so,
me, please?
help me, please. And those two strategies, and, I love this game because it shows not only about eye contact, which I'll get to in a second, but also that there's no right or wrong answer. So the dogs who are like really self-directed problem solvers tend to make really good military working dogs. And the dogs who sit and ask for help are more likely to become service dogs. And so, there's kind of like not right or wrong. It's just your strategy. But something interesting we found is that when we played this game with puppies, the puppies that did this game once every 2 weeks for like 5 minutes from 8 to 20 weeks old made almost twice the amount of eye contact than dogs who didn't. So eye contact between, dogs and their owners is super important. Owners who have, whose dogs make more eye contact, they report being more satisfied with their relationship. Dogs who make more eye contact get adopted out of the shelter faster.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like, there's this beautiful oxytocin loop that happens. It's sort of like when you look into your dog's eyes, and they're looking into yours, like your oxytocin goes up and their oxytocin goes up, and it makes everybody just feel loving and loved. And so, just the fact that we had this funny little game that not only could predict what job a dog would be best for, but it also could, potentially improve the relationship between owners and their dogs.
Amazing. It truly is amazing. And so where are the puppies now? This started how many years ago? Like the puppies are adults. How many in that first lot? How many went on to become service dogs?
Well, so we let's see. So we had 10 semesters that we're tracking, and we work with several wonderful organizations, Canine Companions, and then Eyes, Ears, Nose, and Paws. And, I think we had some guiding lines for the blind puppies in there too. So we were just observing. We had no interventions, but we literally we were kind of half-half. So 50% made it, 50% did not. And, we had some medical releases in there too. So yeah, I mean, we're still waiting for the kind of final dogs to sort of graduate and see where they end up. But yeah, it's a real thing. The 50% is a real thing. But hopefully, once we've completed all the research and looked at all the data, we'll be able to, see what kind of cognitive profile at, 8, 10, 12 weeks would really predict service dog success.
Amazing. Goodness me. I just, my hat's off to you, because I know that's a lot of work. And but again, it's gonna help. It's really gonna help. And not only just with our knowledge, it's gonna help for people who need these service dogs.
Absolutely.
Truly. And I should say that most of these dogs, they're Labradors. Are they all Labradors?
Yeah, they're lab golden retriever mixes usually, but they're from closed populations. So I always tell people that breed doesn't tell you much about a dog except for what they look like. So just for an example, we work with military dogs and we work with assistance dogs, and they're all Labrador retrievers. I mean, you couldn't tell them apart from a photograph, but I mean, they are as different as two different species. I mean, really, the service dogs have had, because they've been bred for this calm, friendly temperament, they've had changes to their brain chemistry, and they're much more pro-social, much more friendlier to strangers, and I think this is what we need to be thinking about, is that, as I said, this cultural shift that has happened. I mean, we really need to stop thinking about so much what dogs look like and more about how we breed, raise, and train them. And, the breeding, we should be really focusing much more on temperament than we do, because, you can just see for service dogs how big those changes are when you start focusing on temperament. And then, in terms of the way we're asking our dogs to live with us, trainers are just incredibly helpful, as are other service industries for dogs. Things like doggy daycare, things like, helping them get socialized with pet walking. But yeah, if they're going to live with us in the way that we're asking them to, something, that stood out to us from the service dogs was how much training there was, and how intensive that training was, and how it just, and how it didn't stop, and how it was constant. It's like raising children now. You can't just tell them when they're 6 months old to be polite and say please and thank you. It's like you've got to do it when they're young, and you've got to continue all the way. And there's so many lessons that they need to learn that didn't matter so much when they were just running around our backyard and jumping fences and chasing cars. It's like they really are. We're asking our pet dogs to behave in ways that is very similar to service dogs. And the amount of training and consistency that you need is just it's so important. And, so that's why we always say, like, hats off to trainers. You guys are really at the forefront of bringing dogs and most importantly, their owners into this new world in which we find ourselves.
And even within the positive community, there's a shift. And there's a shift to, like, it's gone too far to where everything is so controlled, and where, where it's the I say, you do, and if you do, you get a nice reward. It's very much a sort of one-sided, where we're now really focusing, almost going back to what it was like when dogs we're looking at environment, how we can, it's not just about enrichment, it's literally about how we can create environments that are more conducive for dogs to grow and feel safe and feel enriched. And so, because there are so many dogs there that are living in this crazy human world with our rules, and being put in crates for hours and hours on end and expected to be a certain way. And then when they don't behave in a certain way, that behavior is labeled bad. And we're saying there really isn't bad or good behavior. That's the significance that humans label on it. But that behavior means something to that dog. It makes total sense to that dog at that time. And so the too much control is causing, we believe, so much more anxiety, reactivity, aggressive behavior. And when we take a step back and we enable dogs to have more choice, to have more agency, it's this beautiful dance that we need to get right. And every dog is an individual. So, for example, VSA, and what we do positively in VSA is we are less about teaching dogs to sit, stay, and down, and all of these inhibitory positions that we put dogs in. And we are now more into looking at how we can utilize movement to help dogs not just cope, but thrive in different environments. It's very exciting, and it's what we in the positive community are really, so many people are moving towards, because we've got away from that beautiful organic way of raising and living with dogs, like you did, like my husband did, like I wasn't allowed a dog growing up, but my grandmother did. It just was. And these dogs, you can't just let your dogs wander around neighborhoods now. You just can't do it. But
Right.
But I feel like there was less issues with them when they could and when they had. So that's very exciting from a training and behavior standpoint of the success that we're seeing now. But that's the whole thing. And I'd love to talk to you more at some point about that. But there was some questions that people had from the DBC, and it said a couple of these questions I'll just delve into. One of them was, you said that puppy brains are basically fully developed at 20 months old. And does that mean secondary fear periods change their brain development? So that secondary fear period that can happen in adolescence between 6 to 14 months or 6 to 18 months. But if the brain develops around 20 months old, can it be profoundly affected by that fear period, especially if a dog is having some negative experiences?
So the 8 to 20 week period of brain development was kind of like the best research that we had found in terms of
20. I think she said 20 months old. I think she meant 20 weeks.
Yeah, 20 weeks. And yes, of course, like the brain is still, that's the final period of rapid brain development. So, yes, of course, the brain can change and grow. We have experiences that affect us. It's just like, so we just sort of like use that because as humans, we have really slow growing brains. But we also have this period of rapid brain development. I mean, it takes years. Like, if you think of like what happened to your brain from the time you're a baby just to the time that, you were just 9 or 10 years old, like just the way it like grew so rapidly, the way it expanded and increased in complexity, is that period is just really shortened with dogs. And it's difficult to compare, but it does seem like at 20 weeks old the brain has reached the approximate size and complexity in terms of that rapid development. So it's not that the brain still doesn't grow and change, it's just that really fast period was during that time. So absolutely, dogs can have adverse experiences at whatever age that can really throw them for a loop.
And that's going to affect development. Yeah. Okay. So did the puppies spend time with adult dogs or just with other puppies?
So we actually had a principal of the puppy kindergarten, and he was called Congo. He is in the book. He features very heavily. He was a retired service dog, and Brian and I got him when the kids were very young, and he was incredible. He was so patient. The puppies learned a lot from him. Like, the puppies were going crazy and were like, zooming and biting and things like that. He would like just very patiently pick up a toy and hold it out for them. So they would, learn that they were supposed to bite the toy and not each other. And then he would sort of like demonstrate loose leash walking because the puppies were obsessed with him, like completely obsessed with Congo. And so he would walk at a pace that then the puppies would walk at. And so, I mean, yes, Congo was amazing. And he was just one of those really special dogs. And, the puppies and all of us were just lucky to have him.
Amazing. Okay. Were the puppy peak activity periods controlled with the home routine? Because the puppies have these peak periods throughout the day, don't they? And did they see, so you saw that in the Duke puppies, did they see the same kinds of activity periods in the home puppies?
Yes. Yes, that's right. Like I get the routine aspect of it, but usually puppies are kind of like if they're at home, they're kind of out. Do you know what I mean? It was the same at Duke.
Yes.
Like, yes, of course they had nap periods, but in terms of like, we had 7 puppies in the kindergarten, there was just some periods where everybody was just out. And then there were periods where everybody was just bananas. And, that happened either if they were all together or if they were separated. And obviously it's kind of like averaged and smoothed over time, and it wasn't every day. But yes, those peak puppy activity periods, 4 of them were what averaged out over the, however many puppies we looked at with the activity monitors.
So there's 4 peak periods throughout the day. There's 4 activity peaks. I think lots of people don't know that.
No, because I mean, really the only research that had been done on puppy activity were actually in older dogs. And dogs have these 2 activity periods at dawn and dusk, which really makes sense because they're crepuscular. Dogs who are free ranging, this is when, their activity periods are. But yeah, the puppies had 4, which we believed, having that number of puppies at kindergarten. And it made sense to us. But I think that, yes, people who think they're just going to have their puppy at home in their crate for 4 hours in the morning before lunch and then 4 hours at night, there's this real physiological constraint. They have these bursts of energy. And if they're confined during that time, it's going to be difficult for them.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So hold on. I know I had this question. I'm trying to get a mean of them. You see, a mean of questions so that I don't have to. Okay. Have activity levels been studied in teenage dogs, like 6 months to a year? Is there a phase between the puppy and adult activity levels as the dogs transition?
I don't think so. I think we did the first puppy activity study, and so I think the others, may have been an average. I don't know. I'd have to go look at the papers again, but I don't think the teenage period has been compared to the
right.
puppy period because
Okay.
nobody had really looked at puppy activity before we put the activity monitors on the dogs.
Right. So you did. You put the monitors on them. So
Oh yeah, we put
they had.
everybody had a activity monitor. It's kind of like a Fitbit, and they wore them for the whole 8 to 20 weeks. We took them off at nighttime for their sleep, but then we video recorded some of them while they were sleeping so we could see what would happen. But yes, all day, from the minute they woke up to the minute they went to bed, they had activity monitors.
Wow. Okay. And so the so did you ever? There's a question, and there's quite a few questions about using white noise with puppies. About how does that really help? Can that be very annoying? Did you use any kind of noise for when puppies were sleeping?
We used the white noise during testing just to, like, when we were playing the games with them, just to kind of like decrease the distraction. I mean, from what I saw with the puppies, is that like when puppies are going to sleep, they're going to fall asleep. Like some of the puppies would literally fall asleep walking across to testing mat. And I think that, yes, there's probably individual variability just with some kids. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like some kids are particularly sensitive to noise. But what we found was most important is because of these 4 activity periods, and we didn't know about the activity periods like while we were raising the puppies, but we saw that our puppies were walking like 3 miles before breakfast. Like there was so much walking. There was like
wow.
walks in the mornings, and then there was walks before lunch, and then they went out, and then they walked a mile to their dorms. Like there was so much walking our puppies did. And I know a lot of vets are like, oh, you've got to be careful while their bones are growing, but you also have to be careful not exercising them enough. And
Right.
puppies will tell you when they're tired. They're just pancake. They just stop.
Yeah.
They stop walking. Then you have to carry them.
Yeah.
So I think that the walking was super important. And then we didn't have any problems with napping during the day. I will say that there was also variability in sleeping at night.
Hmm.
And it's just nothing helped those puppies. Like bad sleepers were just bad sleepers. But I will say, hope to everyone at home is that every single one of our puppies was sleeping through the night by the time they graduated. So 18 to 20 weeks, everybody was sleeping through the night. And by sleeping through the night, I mean a solid 6-hour period.
Oh, wow.
You got to keep your expectations in the right place, I think.
Right. And toilet training as well.
Potty training as well. Everybody
Potty
was
training.
toilet trained, crate trained, walking
Amazing.
on a leash by the time they were 20 weeks old.
Yeah. See, that just shows what you can do with just, yeah.
Intensive
Really.
amounts of training.
Exactly. Intense. What this is amazing. And thank you for sharing all of that. What other projects do you have? Are you allowed to say or?
Yeah, sure. So now we're working with NC State, their amazing veterinary team over there, led by Margaret Gruen, and we are looking at now the other end of dog life, which is the older dogs. So our team we're looking at kind of like the cognitive profile for dogs who have osteoarthritis. So looking at kind of like early indicators of pain. So dogs are really good at masking pain. Sometimes it's difficult to tell if your dog is in pain until it's like really severe. But we know that in people, several cognitive abilities like, your memory, your self-control, all that's impacted by chronic pain. So we're just kind of trying to figure out if we can develop a cognitive battery that would indicate when dogs are in pain before they start showing those really severe symptoms.
Very exciting. Well, I'll be really excited as I'm a huge supporter of the elderly dog, of the senior dog. And I think, my
Yeah.
goodness, don't we need to understand more about osteoarthritis and what we can do before we see those symptoms that that your dog is in discomfort? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
all
right.
of us who have elderly dogs have seen their dog in discomfort with osteoarthritis. And so then you have to go through of like what is going to be the best pain relief. And we've done
Mhm.
everything from
Mhm.
medication to physio to, therapies just to ease this terrible disease that elderly
Right.
dogs get.
And the key thing is that early intervention, the earlier you know that it's happening, the more comfortable your dog will be. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Vanessa Woods, you are amazing.
Oh, thanks. It was so fun to be on your show.
Oh my God, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today.
Awesome. Well, hopefully I'll see you soon again. And good luck with everything. And hello to all our dog training friends out there.
Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening to this podcast. Wow, I knew that we had learned so much today. But if you want to check it out, then get the book. Yeah, Vanessa, where is the best place for people to go if they want to buy the books, if they want to learn more about the research?
Well, I love independent bookstores. So I just, I just reminded this. Yes, independent bookstores. If you can't easily access one, then Amazon is always great. Independent bookstores also mail. So wherever you love to get your books from.
And if they want to find out more about the actual research, is there anywhere that they can go about the puppy kindergarten? I mean,
well, we have an Instagram the students keep pretty much up to date. So that's at Duke Canine Cognition. Just had to remember it. At Duke Canine Cognition, there's our Instagram handle. You can see the puppies, some of the things we're working on, more about the research as we get going. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. Raising puppies right is so important. And the more that we can have scientists and researchers giving us information, it makes our job so much easier. And that's why it's always really important as trainers, as learners, as dog owners, that we always are learning. Because once we learn something new, we got to take it and distill it and use it so that we can be better for these incredible animals that we share our homes with. All right, everyone, you take care, and I'll see you again on another podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together. Positively.
Are you confused by all the conflicting dog training info flying around the internet? Tired of hearing about compromises that don't consider the dog's overall wellness? Looking for more than just how to teach dogs to do or not do something? If you feel like there must be more to dog training than the same old tired arguments about tools and methods, you're right. No matter your background, discover an inclusive community designed to go beyond traditional dog training and develop what you need to live your best life with your dog at positively.com. Accounts are completely free to set up, and you'll find countless pages, videos, and courses to level up not just your skills and knowledge, but also how you think about living your best life with your dog. Visit us now at positively.com. That's positively.com. And now, back to the podcast.